Hello and welcome to episode 5 of the Apprentice P45 podcast with me, Esme.
And me, Benjy Potter.
I catched it up then. I dropped the surname. I thought, they know what
Yeah, and
names
also Esme, you have to say "and you" because otherwise I don't know when to come in.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I should
You're
know by
tired.
now.
It's okay.
How are you? How have you been?
I've been really good. It's funny because the last episode of The Apprentice seems so long ago now. But that's how I measure my life, basically, in episodes of The Apprentice. But to come back to it is very comforting, and to know that none of the characters have changed in a week is also astounding, but also comforting as well. What about you?
Yeah, I've been good, thanks, mate. Yeah, I've been good. I don't measure my life quite off The Apprentice as much as you do, but I appreciate that. Like sometimes it's nice to have a point in the week that you kind of compare and contrast.
Side note, I know this is the Apprentice P45 podcast, but do you watch Afterlife?
I do. Well, I'm on this. Is it season 3 is the most recent?
Yeah.
I'm on season 3 and I've watched 3 episodes out of however many there are. So I'm not finished it yet because I'm watching it with my boyfriend and I only see him at certain points. So why? No spoilers.
It's good,
please.
isn't it?
It is good. It's sad though. I find it really hard. I find it really emotional.
And initially I had a problem with it because I love Ricky Gervais, but I always find he's playing the same character. But when I gave myself a chance to get into it, it's heartbreaking. But Penelope Wilton, who plays, I think it's Penelope Wilton, who plays the lady sitting on the bench. Oh,
yeah.
A reason for living. Anyway.
I love how you brought that up. Anyone listening's like, what is going on? Why have I changed podcast mid? What has glitched?
There's more to us. There's more to us than we're not apprentice robots.
We are. All we watch is The Apprentice, and we watch it every waking hour. We're like AI robots. We just watch it on a loop.
We have another podcast as well, don't we? So we're either watching I'm a Celeb or The Apprentice, but nothing else.
Yeah, I wonder we should maybe we should have done a more general TV review podcast. Anyway, conversation for another day. Okay, so do you want to kick us off by talking about today? Well, just to recap, the episode was about gaming, right? Design your own games. Enter Benjy, who's going to tell us about those games.
Yeah, so I think that gaming and sort of narrative and stories and cartoons have been central to a few of the tasks, but this week was kind of the main focus of it.
Yeah.
Now, I know Naomi Saunders on Twitter was really looking forward to this episode because she's a big gaming fan.
Yeah.
And I think that overall the episode was actually quite good. I'm sick of these opening sequences with Lord Sugar being like cartoons and animated up. What did you think? It's so cringy.
There is a tacky element to it, isn't there? A slightly tacky element. I do get what you're saying.
I'm meant to be the mean one. It's catching.
It's catching. I know what you mean. It is, but like maybe they're just trying to spice it up rather than it's just constantly him being like, hello everyone, here's the task,
Yeah, okay, fair enough. I didn't like it. It's grinding on me. So the names of the teams, so they mixed the teams up, and they came up with their ideas. And I mean, I knew from the offset, I got what Brittany was trying to do. And interesting, because Brittany as PM, we haven't heard from her at all.
No, I kind of didn't know who she was when they said Brittany. I was like, who? Like, I kind of forgot who she was. But that's why it's quite nice to have the rotation of PMs and stuff like that, because you start to feel like, oh, okay, well, this person does exist and they can do this. And so it's quite nice to move it up, because we do get a lot of the same characters. They obviously have their favorites. Like, what's that blonde girl? Francesca, is it? Francesca. She's the one that's very like, a lot of the narratives would focus around her quite often, or Akshay or Navid. Hello, Navid.
Hello, Navid. But interesting game plan maneuver, because if we go by Martin's by Martin's kind of predictions, you don't do PM in the first 3 to 4 weeks, and then you might get ahead further. And Brittany's opening gambit to suggesting herself as fair PM was, every time there's been a winning team, I've always been part of that team that have made the winning decisions. Now it's my time to be PM. I was like, yes, queen, snaps all round.
So you liked that?
I like that, but I don't think she delivered. We'll get onto that later. So we had the Arctic Saviour, later, which was the funny, boring, educational global warming game.
It was a bit crap, wasn't it? Let's be honest.
And then we had Time, which was the prison game. Kind of a bit confusing, just kind of prison-y game. I just realised that you were meant to talk about those things, and I've completely ignored the running order. Well, so over to you, Esme.
Talk about the different game ideas, haven't I? That's your section, so that's fine. So they were the two, and you very well, summarised the two. So let's just get to the most obvious part of the episode, was the fact that they misspelled Arctic. And I don't understand how not one of them knows how to say Arctic. They were all pronouncing it Arctic. And I was like, why is nobody hearing the C? I understand if one person, especially with some people dyslexic or haven't got good spelling, I understand that. And I appreciate that. But it's the fact that not one person was saying Arctic. They were all saying Arctic. I was like, is this a different word that I don't know?
My favourite character from this whole episode was the designer that wrote it out onto the screen and let them do it. And I was like,
they definitely could have said are you sure you're not trying to go for the word Arctic? But then I think the Apprentice producers probably wouldn't have liked, they probably would say don't, they want them to make those mistakes. But
we know it's an entertainment show. We love it for it. It was a highlight of the episode.
But they checked at one point. They were like, is that everything spelled right? And they were like, yeah. Just Google it. Just be like, oh, let's just double check. Let's do a spell check.
No, because then it wouldn't be an amazing episode.
Yeah, so do you think it's fake?
Do I think it's fake? Oh, I've got into this before about how producers potentially set it up. Look, if it was a proper business process, it would go to testing. They'd notice the spelling error probably before, and then they'd alter it. But the fabulous thing about The Apprentice is that it goes straight through to pitching, and then you see the full fallout. And of course, they were going to make sure that someone asked about it. They did.
I just think I don't know how anybody can. Anyway. I'm going to do I'm going to do a quick summary of my thought. This is what I had written down. A quick summary of my thoughts on both games. Right, ready? Bullet point list. The Arctic game, I think it was a bit too eco warrior to be fun. I am very eco-friendly as a person. Vegetarian. I think about this a lot. Very good at recycling.
Right.
But
we get it.
I know I'm morally superior. I get it. But I also thought, for a game in the gaming industry, it felt a bit BBC bite size, right?
Well, you ain't getting no more work from them.
Yeah. I work for BBC bite size. Check me out on the English Key Stage 3 section.
Go on.
But what my point is, it felt like a kid's learning game.
Good. It was educational.
Which wasn't the sort of vibe they were going for. They were going for a big, a gamey game. And this wasn't that. This was educational. On CBBC's website, maybe it would have done really well because it was simple and it was educational.
Yeah.
Perfect.
You're clawing it back now. Fair enough.
Not the right audience. That's my point number one. Two, I didn't like their sort of mix of using real photos of animals mixed in with weird CGI people. It was a bit too choppy and changey. I also thought Sam the scientist, come on, spend 5 more minutes on that. And the fact they didn't know that there's no penguins in the Arctic. Valid. I forget where the penguins are, at the top or the bottom, whatever. That's fair. But
I wouldn't have known that.
Look into it. Do you know what I mean? Google Arctic animals, right? It takes you 5 seconds. My thoughts on number 2, the Time one, is I thought the graphics were hilarious. It was a bit when they were like making her like CGI'd, it reminded me of have you ever seen that like You're a Wizard, Harry video of Hagrid and he's like glitching out, and it was like very 15 years ago. So basically there was someone on early YouTube days made a video of like You're a Wizard, Harry, and it was like a CGI remix, and Hagrid starts like glitching out, and it's meant to be funny, right? But it was when you're like 10. Very that. This is very bad to reference because you don't know what I'm talking about. Anyway, I thought it did look kind of like a believable game when they were playing it through. I was like, yeah, it could be a game. Like, yeah, fair play. Like, it did look all right. But I didn't really get what you had to do in the game. Like, I understood the premise of the character, but I didn't really get what the game really was, and I was just a bit, yeah. They're my thoughts on the actual games. Back to you in the studio.
Well, yes, back to me in the studio. We didn't have quite so long scheduled in for our correspondent Esme Todd there. We'll have to cut off the last news segment. No, I agree with you. Listen,
ditch the weather.
Ditch the weather. I agree with you on the first game. Second game, I disagree. I actually thought that Game Time had the premise of being a fantastic game with a brilliant backstory. Unfortunately, the confines of The Apprentice don't allow often for very good or refined graphics, but that game totally felt like, to me, something that I would play 100%. And I don't play computer games.
I'm missing one thing I did also want to say. I really enjoyed I think they had a really good idea of it, this like boss female being the main character, because I thought that was quite nice. You know?
Oh my God, shout out to Amy's monologue. Amy Ansell, you know, I love you, about like the whole backstory of how they're in a bank robbery and then the dad was holding the shotgun and then the judge like paid him off.
And they just looked and she was doing all this and they just looked at her like, what?
I loved it. It was an iconic moment. Right, moving on to testing. Again, they haven't had much time to do this, so how can they test it on seasoned video game players? Of course they're not going to like it.
Yeah. Was that all you had to say?
Yeah, well, no.
That was a very short point.
And then pitching. I am innocent. Someone said it's like pitching. That's what Amelia Stone said. Also, right? I'm sorry, okay. You know, Amelia Stone. I think even Lord Sugar said
Stone?
it.
Where am I? Where are you?
Amelia Stone's a woman in the prison game. They're like, that's a great name.
Oh,
that
the character. Oh God, I don't remember the character's name. I was like, who's
really
Stone?
No, because they kept saying throughout the whole episode, that's a really strong name. And even Lord Sugar was like, yeah, that's a strong name. Like, Amelia Stone is a strong name. I'm sorry, Amelia Stone is the name of like a pen pushing 2-bit receptionist who doesn't want to work like the full day and who takes an hour and a half lunch. Amelia Stone is not the name of a superhero breaking out of prison.
Do you think she should have had a bit more of a punchy like flame or something?
Lara Croft, like jump.
Is Lara Croft not a cool name because you know the character? Like if they'd made up the name Lara Croft, would you not be like, Lara Croft? What does that mean? You know?
No, I think it's got like a sexy feel.
Okay. Yeah, and I know how you like your female sexy ladies.
Yeah, well, gay icons. This is what we were talking about off the podcast, wasn't
it? You like it.
What makes a gay icon? Yeah,
on the pitch were on the Arctic one. I didn't like their trying to sound really scientific. I'm like, come on, let's not go into that.
No.
And I didn't
like feisty Esme tonight. Can you be tired?
I know, I'm just tired and I'm in a bad mood. I also didn't like the fact that they just kind of tried to like sweep it under the rug that they spelled Arctic wrong. It was just like, just say we made a typo. I'm sorry. I understand that they were trying to go down the route of saying they didn't want to look unprofessional, but like you look unprofessional regardless of whether you claim it or not. You spell Arctic without the C. So anyway, that's my thoughts on the picture. It just cringed me out. Second of all, the time one, that's one where they got very flustered and they got very nervous, and I feel for them because it's really, I understand, like it's nothing worse than feeling nervous and then you feel like you've messed up and then you're over worrying and you've got people kind of just staring at you blankly, and I understand they must have felt really stressed. However, it did make for
Harpreet?
Yes, well, all of them were making mistakes as well. Harpreet was one who actually called it out, so I'm nervous, I'm sorry. And then the blokey after her, I forget his name. Akeem, was it not Akeem?
Oh, Akeem finished it, yeah, sorry.
He also, because was it him also that kind of made he like forgot to go to questions, didn't he? And he can like, he just like bumbled around a bit. And there's a lot of bumbling and a bit, oh god, it just like makes me cringe in my room. I'm watching it, I'm just like, oh. But yeah, anyway, that's a bit mean to say, but yeah, that whole scene was a bit uncomfortable. But I understand, like, you know, it's scary. But if you're in a business, you need to be good at doing this. It's quite a big part of it, isn't it? Pitching and being confident. Here we go. Benjy looks like he's got something to say.
No, I like to see this feisty side of you. You know, if you're auditioning people for Esme's new business partner, they have to reach a high business acumen.
Yeah. You need to be able to pitch and do a delivery.
Also, like, why was Aaron wearing like a white suit? Like a scientist like hazmat suit. It just made no sense. Not what you wear in a prison. Maybe they ran out of prison uniforms. I was like, what's happening?
Went for white because they ran out of orange.
It's like what like forensic scientists use when they go onto a crime scene. Anyway, side point, excuse me.
I know what you mean.
Over to you.
Well, let's get on to the firing in the boardroom. So just to cut straight to it, the Time team got 60k worth of investment, which is all right. Yeah, it's quite a bit of money.
Told you, it's a game I'd play.
There we go. You're clearly the key demographic. And the Time team,
Arctic
team got got no investment. I mean, that wasn't that shocking. The name was spelled wrong and it was a bit of a boring game. But it was quite, I felt, you know, I'm surprised it got actually, no, I'm not surprised. No, I'm not gonna be nice. Anyway, so we got down to there was what's her name? Brittany, as the voiceover guy kept saying. Brittany, very posh. Brittany was in the final 3 and she brought in with her Francesca and Sophie, is that right? Remember that? Yeah. And I was, so my first thought when they brought those 2 in was, a girl's going home for the first time, because we've had all boys, haven't we, so far?
I
knew straight away. I was like, whoever goes, they're a woman. So that was quite nice to know that was a bit of a mix-up, because we've lost all the boys so far. And should I just go straight into who went? No,
I want to talk about some of the stuff that went in the boardroom.
Right, you go first.
The rivalry, the biggest star of the show for me in episode 5 was the rivalry between Francesca and Sophie. It is unlike anything I've ever seen on reality TV. It's incredible. It's like this posh girl sort of top of the class kind of behavior. It's like, no, Sophie, I showed you on my notepad and we all did that. And then she said, no, Francesca, I tried to say Arctic Mission and you wouldn't listen, okay? You wouldn't listen. Amazing scenes.
Have you ever seen that guy on TikTok who does that whole, like, he's got characters he's built, posh, do you watch TikTok much?
Yeah, of course.
There's this guy who does these things.
250,000 views. Viral. Anyway.
There's this guy who does these videos and pretend it's like POV, point of view videos, like point of view, you're sat in your uni accommodation and the posh kids are around, and he's always doing things like Minty and Hugo, and he's got all these different characters, and just what you just did then is just exactly what it reminds me of. It's like that kind of battle of the posh kids, you know. I loved it.
I loved to see it, and I was glad they were both in the boardroom, because otherwise we wouldn't have seen that.
So we got down to the final 3. I think Sophie, right, I'm going to say who left, and it was Francesca. I thought that was actually the first time I really didn't think that was a good decision, because I felt Brittany came up with, it was her idea and she was very adamant to this idea, and people did say it wasn't the best idea, and she was very adamant. She was like, we're doing this. I do appreciate the fact that she was trying to be brave and go something a bit different. I appreciate that, but she, at the end of the day, it was her concept. Like, she was one who really forced this idea. Second of all, Sophie, I mean, she seems nice. She doesn't do very much, does she? Francesca does seem to try quite hard and does seem reasonably switched on some of the time. So it felt unfair that she had to go because of the branding, even though, like, I don't know, it wasn't just none of them knew how to spell Arctic, which was a big part of the problem. I don't know. What do you think? Or do you think Francesca was right to go?
I would have liked to have seen a double firing, and I would have liked to seen Francesca and Sophie go, because I think the squabbling and both of them were responsible for that error. However, at the end of the day, that mistake was so glaring.
Yeah.
And she was at the helm of that team. There is no way she couldn't have paid for it.
All right, fair enough. But she wasn't the only one who got that wrong. They were all didn't know how to spell it, you know?
I want to see Akshay go. I mean, I don't know why he wasn't in the boardroom. Maybe it's because he just went along with it and didn't say much this week. But
he was very much against Sophie, wasn't he? And very much sticking up for Francesca in the boardroom.
Yes, yeah.
So, like,
yeah, he was quite dignified in that way.
Anyway, that was it really to the episode. We saw Francesca head off, and then at the end we saw Alan Sugar came in. And actually, can I just say, I was very disappointed by that whole thing. They made this massive thing about them all sat around like, who's the other? Oh, and then Alan Sugar walks in and they're like, oh, what's it gonna be? What's it gonna be? And he just tells them the next task. And I was like, first of all, why have they done that? Second of all, I was convinced.
Yes, everyone was.
And that's probably why they did it, right? But I thought he was gonna come back and say, I've changed my mind, or you've got to go too, or Francesca's back, whatever.
We loved to see it, but we didn't see it.
Yeah,
and he should have come back into the house and gone, you know what? Another of you should go. 2 of you are rubbish.
Yeah. Do you know what? I've been thinking about it. I wouldn't want to work with any of you. You're all out.
Do you know what? Yeah. Do you know what, actually? You can stay in the house. Terrible. We paid for it. We paid for it this year. But, you know, don't bother doing any tasks. You know, you keep disappointing me. We're going to share the prize money out individually, like equally for the rest of you. And like, just, I don't know, spend it on something nice.
Wouldn't that be the funniest?
I don't want to work with you.
The funniest plot twist.
What would they run for the rest of the series? Just like videos of how they're spending their money.
Just like for the next however many slots they've got put aside in the TV guide, just play the ones out again and again repetitively.
No, what they could do is they could play for the first few. They could play the Apprentice P45 podcast.
Yeah, they could. They've got 4 episodes. I'll tell you what they also could do. Is they could
play the I'm a Celeb Fan podcast.
Alan Sugar comes in and he goes, right, do you know what? I don't want to work with a single one of you. You're all gone. I'm really sorry. We're ending this season early this year. They all, you know, think, oh, that's a shame. And he goes, but we booked your time. You know, we've got you. We've paid for the house. We can't get the deposit back. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a reality spin on this, right? Love Island, The Apprentice crossover. And then it all becomes big dating. It's like whoever wants the money is whoever can like couple up. We're gonna see some marriages broken up here and become a big reality show. That would be quite a funny twist.
Commissioned. Right. You've been listening to the Apprentice P45 podcast with me, Benjy Potter, and you, as me, Todd. Of course, if you want to support us, you don't have to give us any money. All you have to do, head to iTunes, give us a review. You scroll down, you can give us a star rating. I'd go for 5.
People have done it, but not written anything.
That's it. So the more stars you give, the more money that will be deposited in your iTunes account. Until you give us 5 stars, the money won't go into your account. And then on Spotify now, you can rate us as well. So give us 5 stars there. Let your friends know. We've got some great regular listeners. And we like to get in touch with you on Twitter and Instagram. Remember, it's at Apprentice P45. We'll be back next week. Same time, same place. And we hope the Apprentice is back on, right?
Yeah, who knows? The reality show might be good.
Anything could happen.
Bye.
Bye.